I never expected her to remember my name, let alone everything else. It started like most Thursdays, quiet, predictable, the kind of day that already knows how it'll end. I'd stopped by the cafe near the bus station, the one with uneven tables and the smell of burnt toast no one complains about. I came there to kill time before class, same as always. She was already there. Mrs. Cato, my friend's mom. She sat by the window, reading glasses low on her nose, stirring coffee that had probably gone cold 20 minutes ago. I almost didn't recognize her. Her hair shorter now, softer around her face. She looked like she'd learned to take her time with things. When she noticed me, she gave a small, delayed smile. You still drink the same thing? I blinked. You remember? She laughed, quiet, not looking up from her cup. You always ordered the same. Americano, 2 sugars, 1 stirred, 1 forgotten. I didn't know what to say to that. My chest felt tight in the way it does when something ordinary turns personal too fast. I ordered what I always did, out of habit, maybe out of wanting her to notice again, and took the seat across from her. You still in school? She asked. Trying to be, I said. Mostly working now. Nights, mostly. She nodded, brushing a crumb off her sleeve. The movement was small, careful. Her hands looked like they'd been busy with a lot of things she never talked about. I heard about your dad, she said softly. I'm sorry. That threw me. It had been months since he passed, and I'd learned how to live around the silence. But hearing her say it, like she'd been carrying it too, hit somewhere deeper than I expected. Yeah, I said. Still feels strange, sometimes. She didn't fill the pause. She just looked out the window, her reflection overlapping the street outside. There was something almost cruel about how peaceful she looked, like she'd made peace with things I was still running from. Do you still see, Tatsuya? I asked. My son. She smiled. Not much. He's always somewhere else these days. Yeah, guess we both are. She studied me then, for a long moment. The kind of look that makes you want to check if you've said something wrong, or maybe too right. I looked down, folded the napkin I'd been fidgeting with into a crooked triangle. You've grown up, she said finally. Not sure I have. Her mouth tilted, just barely. You have that look. Men get it when they realize time's not waiting anymore. It sounded like a compliment and an apology at the same time. A song came on the cafe speakers, something from the early 2000s, slow, wistful. She hummed a line under her breath. I pretended not to notice, but I did. I noticed everything. The chipped nail polish, the faint scent of something citrus on her wrist, the way she touched the handle of her cup, but didn't lift it. I should go, she said after a while, checking her phone though no message had come in. I'm running late. I nodded, even though I didn't want her to leave. As she stood, she hesitated. You're around here often? Sometimes. Then maybe I'll see you again. Thursdays, maybe. Maybe. She smiled, small but knowing, and left. The chair across from me still held the warmth of where she'd been sitting. I stayed until the coffee went cold. An hour later, my phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. You started this, now finish it. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel tired anymore. I didn't see her again for 3 weeks. I told myself I wasn't looking, but every Thursday, I still found my way to that cafe. Same seat, same cup, same unfinished coffee. When she finally appeared, she looked surprised to find me there, like she hadn't expected me to wait, but wasn't entirely disappointed either. You kept the table, she said, her tone light, but her eyes careful. I shrugged. Didn't know it was yours. She smiled at that. It's not. But thank you anyway. We didn't talk much at first. Just the kind of small talk that tries to fill the air without meaning to. She had a paper bag with her, groceries, maybe. I offered to carry it, but she said it was fine. She always said that. When the cafe started to close, she hesitated before leaving. I live a few blocks away, she said. You can walk me if you like. It wasn't an invitation exactly, more like permission. Her apartment was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like it used to be louder. She placed the bag on the counter and sighed, like she'd just remembered she was supposed to be tired. Tea, she asked. Sure. She moved slowly, measuring leaves into a small pot. Everything she did had a sort of intention behind it, like she was making peace with the moment just by existing in it. I washed her hands, how steady they were, how they didn't shake even when her voice did. "Do you ever miss being 20?" she asked suddenly. I almost laughed. "I'm 22. I'm still trying to figure out what that means." Her eyes lifted to mine. "Exactly." The kettle clicked. She poured the water and handed me a cup. Her fingers brushed mine. Barely, but enough that I noticed how warm she was. "My husband used to hate this tea," she said, half to herself. "Said it tasted like wet leaves." Maybe he was right. "Are you too?" "Divorced," she said, before I could finish. "A long time ago. I suppose I got used to being the only one who likes quiet things." We drank in silence for a while. The clock on the wall ticked unevenly. Somewhere outside, a car door slammed. She sat down next to me, not across. Close enough that I could smell her perfume. Something faint, maybe citrus again. I thought about all the things I shouldn't say. How wrong this should feel. But it didn't. Not yet. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. I thought later, maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. When I stood to leave, she reached out, just for a second, and straightened the collar of my jacket. Her fingers lingered, then fell away. "Good night," she said softly. But the way she said it, it didn't sound like goodbye. I started avoiding Thursdays. Or maybe Thursdays started avoiding me. I told myself it was better that way, whatever that way meant. But when the week stretched too long and the silence got heavy again, I found myself walking toward her street. Not the cafe, her street. The air smelled like rain that hadn't started yet. Her window light was on, a small rectangle of warmth in a dark building. I should have kept walking. I didn't. She opened the door before I could knock. "I saw you from the window," she said, voice quiet, cautious. "You looked like you were deciding something." I guess I still am. She didn't invite me in this time. She just leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed loosely, like she was keeping her thoughts in. "You shouldn't come by like this," she said. "I wasn't planning to," I said. "My feet just remembered the way." She finished for me, faint smile. Then softer. "That's dangerous." Behind her, the kettle was on. Steam clouded the kitchen light. I could hear a faint hum, music maybe, or her trying to fill the silence. "Tea?" she asked finally. I nodded. Inside, everything was as I remembered. A clean table, a folded dish towel, the faint smell of citrus, and something older, maybe loneliness. She poured without speaking, eyes down, fingers steady. I tried to look anywhere else, at the photos on the shelf, the one of her son and me in high school uniforms. I looked younger, louder. She looked the same. Maybe that was the problem. "You don't have to worry," I said, unsure what I meant. "I'm not worried," she said, and I knew she was lying. The clock ticked again, unevenly, like last time. It filled the space between us. Then a sound, footsteps in the hallway. Someone approaching the door. She froze, hand tightening around her cup. "Tatsuya sometimes stops by," she said quickly, too quickly. "He's unpredictable." My chest went tight. We waited. The footsteps passed. The elevator chimed. Silence again. She exhaled. I did too. "You see," she whispered. "This isn't simple." "I know." She looked at me then, really looked. Not the polite kind of looking people do when they're pretending not to care. This was heavier, slower. Her lips parted like she was about to say something, then didn't. I felt it before I realized it. I'd stepped closer. Our shoulders almost touched. Her breath hitched. Her eyes flicked down, then back up. "Don't," she said, but it came out too soft to be a command. I didn't move. Neither did she. For a long moment, the air between us felt suspended, fragile. Then the kettle whistled again, too loud. She turned away, fast, like she'd been waiting for the interruption. I stared at the back of her neck, the small stray hair she hadn't tucked behind her ear. "Good night," she said, without turning around. I left. Outside, the rain had finally started. She texted first this time. "There's a park near the station. 6 p.m., if you're free." No punctuation after that. Just the kind of message that sounds casual until you realize it isn't. When I got there, she was sitting on a bench facing the pond, a takeaway cup between her hands. The air smelled of wet leaves and old rain. I sat beside her without saying anything. "You came," she said, eyes still on the water. "You asked." She smiled faintly. "I wasn't sure you would." A breeze passed, moving her hair. She looked tired, not the kind of tired you fix with sleep, but the kind that sits in the eyes and doesn't leave. I saw Tatsuya last weekend, she said. He mentioned you. Said you've been quiet. I shrugged. Guess I've been busy. With what? I hesitated, trying not to think about you. She froze, just slightly. Her fingers tightened on the cup lid. Then she let out a slow breath. You shouldn't say things like that. I know. The silence between us grew, layered with all the things we'd already said without words. A child ran past chasing a ball, the sound breaking through like something from another world. I keep thinking this will fade, she said quietly. That I'll wake up one morning and feel nothing again. But you don't, I said. No. She looked at me then, really looked. And that scares me. Her voice caught on that last word. It wasn't dramatic, just raw, unguarded. I think about the cafe, she continued. How easy it was to talk then, before I started wondering what your eyes meant. I swallowed. Maybe they didn't mean anything. She gave a small, sad laugh. They meant too much. A drop of rain landed on her wrist. She didn't move. I wanted to brush it away, but didn't. The distance between us felt thinner than air. You're young, she said after a while. You should be falling in love with someone who doesn't have to hide it. Maybe I already did. She closed her eyes like she was trying not to hear it. When she opened them, they were softer but guarded again. I'm not what you think, she said. I get lonely. That's all this is. Then why does it feel like more? Her lips parted. She didn't answer. The sound of ducks moving through the pond filled the space where her words should have been. She reached out then, not for my hand, but to adjust the cuff of my sleeve, her fingers brushing my skin for half a second too long. You should go, she whispered. I didn't move. She finally turned to me, eyes glistening in the dim light. Tell me, she said, barely audible. What are we doing? And before I could find the right words, she looked away, leaving the question suspended between us, trembling like something alive. She stopped replying. Not abruptly, just slower. A day between messages, then 3. The kind of fading that's quiet enough to call coincidence if you need to. At first, I tried to play it cool. Told myself she was busy, that I was imagining the distance. But every unanswered text sat heavier than the last. By Thursday, the cafe felt different. Her table by the window was empty, her usual cup absent. I still ordered my Americano, still stirred 2 sugars, 1 forgotten. It felt like acting out a scene after the other actor had left. I saw her again 2 weeks later, by accident. She was leaving the grocery store, hair pulled back, talking to someone I didn't recognize, a man, older, comfortable. He touched her arm when he laughed, easy and familiar. She didn't flinch. When she saw me across the street, her smile faltered. Not guilt, just recognition. Like seeing a dream you're not sure you actually had. That night, I didn't text her. I typed something and erased it. Over and over. Are you okay? Was that your ex? Did I mean anything? None of them sounded right. I left the screen blank. Days turned into a week. Then she texted. Could we not meet for a while? No explanation. No apology. Just that. I didn't answer. But she must have known I'd come anyway, because when I walked past her apartment 3 nights later, the lights were off, blinds drawn. Like she'd anticipated my weakness and shut it out ahead of time. I sat on the curb across the street, not sure if I was waiting for her to return or for myself to leave. A car passed, splashing water over my shoes. Somewhere above, a window opened. Her window. I thought I saw her silhouette, just a shape, standing still, maybe watching. I raised a hand before I could stop myself. The shadow didn't move. That small nothing, that stillness, hit harder than any goodbye. The next morning, I got a message from her son, Tatsuya. A photo of us in high school uniforms, smiling too wide. His text read, Mom found this while cleaning. She said you've grown up. She misses those days. I stared at it for a long time. The irony burned slow. Maybe she really was just cleaning. Maybe not. I typed a reply. Tell her I'm doing fine. Then deleted it. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. At the cafe, our table stayed empty for weeks. The barista stopped asking if I wanted my usual. Sometimes, I still take the long way home, past her building, the window that no longer glows. Not because I expect to see her, but because not seeing her still feels like part of the story. I didn't plan on seeing her again. But that's the thing about endings. They rarely ask permission. It was late. I just finished a night shift and stopped at the convenience store near her neighborhood. The streets were empty except for a stray cat and the hum of the vending machine. I was halfway through a canned coffee when I saw her walking up the hill, a paper bag in her arms. She noticed me before I could decide whether to pretend I hadn't. A small, startled pause, then a tired smile. "You're still up," she said. "Couldn't sleep." "Me neither." For a while, we just stood there under the streetlight, both pretending this was coincidence, not gravity. "Do you want to ride home?" I asked. She looked at the quiet road behind me, then back at me. "I live 2 blocks away." "I know." Something in that admission made her laugh, softly, the way you do when you're not sure if it's okay to. We walked in silence. The paper bag rustled in her hands. I noticed she wore the same coat from that day in the park. Same faint perfume. At her building, she stopped at the bottom of the steps. "You shouldn't be here," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "I just wanted to talk." "I know," she said. "That's the problem." She set the bag down and leaned against the railing. For a long time, she didn't say anything. Then, I thought I could make it stop. If I ignored it long enough, it would fade. Did it? She shook her head. No. It just settled in, like a noise you get used to. The honesty of it cut through everything. "I keep replaying that day at the park," I said quietly. "The question you asked. What are we doing?" she finished for me. "Yeah." She met my eyes then, steady, searching. "Do you have an answer now?" I thought about lying. About saying I'd moved on, that it didn't matter anymore. But I was too tired to pretend. "I don't," I said. "I just know I still think about you when I shouldn't." She closed her eyes for a moment, exhaling through her nose. "You'll meet someone your age," she said softly. "Someone who doesn't come with all of this. I'm not looking for someone else." "I know," she said again, eyes glistening now. "That's what scares me." We stood there, the space between us as fragile as breath. She reached out, brushed a raindrop, or maybe a tear, from my cheek with her thumb. "Don't make this harder," she whispered. "I'm not trying to." "Then stop looking at me like that." I couldn't. Her hand lingered for a second longer, then fell away. She gave a small, trembling smile. "Okay," she said. And it wasn't surrender. It wasn't forgiveness either. Just 2 people standing in the same silence, finally acknowledging the cost of it. It's been 2 years since that night under the streetlight. Some things never went back to how they were. The cafe changed owners. My shifts changed. She moved apartments, just 1 train stop over, but it felt like another country at first. We didn't talk for a while. Not out of anger, just the quiet kind of distance people take when they need to live a little differently to remember who they are. But time has a strange way of softening what once hurt. One morning, a text arrived. "I'm at the park. 8:47 a.m. Bring coffee." No punctuation, just like before. When I got there, she was on the same bench, hair shorter now, a thermos in her lap. The pond looked smaller somehow, or maybe I'd grown. She smiled when she saw me. "You remembered the time." I almost didn't. "Almost," she said, handing me a paper cup. "That's still remembering." The coffee was black this time. No sugar, no stirring. I didn't complain. We talked about simple things. Her work at the gallery, my move to a new apartment, the way the seasons felt shorter now. Every word came easy, like we'd finally learned how to exist in the same air again. There was no mention of what happened before. No apology, no rehashing. It wasn't needed. We'd already carried it long enough to know what it cost. At one point, a child ran past chasing a ball, just like before. We both noticed, both smiled. The same shared quiet that used to feel dangerous now felt easy. "You still drink too fast," she said, glancing at my empty cup. "And you still make your tea too strong." Her laugh was small but real. She looked younger when she laughed. "Do you ever think about that night?" I asked, surprising myself. "Every now and then," she said. "Mostly when it rains." I nodded. "Me too." We sat for a while, watching the ripples on the water. The sunlight caught the edge of her thermos, the same one she'd had the first day we met again at the cafe. She glanced at me. "You look settled," she said. I think I am. Something in the way she said it, gentle, proud, almost tender, made my chest tighten, but not painfully this time. More like gratitude. I'm glad, she added. And just like that, everything that needed to be said existed in that one sentence. When she stood to leave, she touched my shoulder, just a light, familiar pressure, and smiled. Thursdays still work for you? Always, I said. She nodded, the kind of nod people give when they're finally home in their own story. As she walked away, the morning light caught her hair. I stayed on the bench, tracing the faint ring her cup had left on the wood, the small proof that we'd both been here, at the same time, after everything. I didn't feel paused anymore. Just quietly, finally, finished.